What is going on, guys? We're driving around in my 2003 Ford F-150. This is a XLT FX4 actually, with the 2-valve 5.4. What we're going to talk about today is why the 4.6 2-valve and the 5.4 2-valve Ford engines are some of the best engines they ever made. They're not powerhouse, they don't make big numbers, but they're just reliable, perfect for the application they were fitted into. Now this is actually the second truck with the 5.4 that I've owned. The other one was a 99 F-150 four-wheel drive. I actually bought that truck in high school. Bought it with about 120,000 miles on it. Drove it until it had 290,000. Sold the thing, still running perfectly, and then got this one. This truck's actually got 150,000 miles on it now. My dad actually purchased this truck brand new, and whenever he was ready to get rid of it, I just had to jump on being able to get this thing. Now on my 99, really the only thing I did, of course, I put belts on it, I put spark plugs in it, all the normal maintenance, a couple pulleys, you know, things like that. But really the only thing that actually went wrong with that truck, I owned it for 11 years, and the only time it ever left me stranded was one time when it blew a spark plug out. And if anyone's familiar with the 2-valve engine, that was a common thing. There's only like 3 threads that hold those spark plugs into the head. So from time to time, pretty much if those engines run long enough, eventually that's gonna happen. Once again, these engines don't make a lot of power. I think this thing's only rated at like 265, 275 horse. You know, the towing capacity of these half tons is, you know, 7,700 pounds, I think is what they called out for on them. So, not gonna go pull any big gooseneck trailers with this or anything, but for the majority of people that need a half-ton truck, these things are perfect. Here it is, 2003 F-150. Once again, it is the XLT with the 5.4. This one actually has the two-tone paint package and is the FX4 off-road. As you can see, I gonna use that a little bit to get out here. And of course, if anyone's familiar with Ford, you know that this was kind of the first mass production of the mod motors. They started putting these in the trucks in 97. 97's when they changed the body style, and they went to the 4.6 and the 5.4 mod motors. Really big technology jump from just the old pushrod style motors. A lot of benefits as well. And one of the interesting things is actually 2020 Ford has come back out with a pushrod truck motor. The 7.3 liter. It's going to be a pretty impressive engine. You know why they did that? I don't know. They've had such success with the mod motors. I think it was just with diesel has evolved so much with DPFs, after treatment, EGRs, all the problems that come along with those. The industry is just looking for those heavy-duty gasoline trucks, and I think that's where that 7.3 was born. It's a cheap motor to build. It's not nearly as intricate as a mod motor is. We'll see how long that thing lasts, how that holds up. Be interesting to see. Everyone's comparing it, of course, to the LS motors. I've heard that there are some guys playing around with putting those things in Mustangs. That'll be interesting to see what kind of numbers they can make out of those. Now, before everyone blows up on me in the comments, we are talking about the 2-valve 5.4, not the 3-valve. That 3-valve, if any of you out there owned one of those, sorry about your luck. Now the 3-valve 5.4 came out in 2004 along with the body change in the F-150. That engine used variable cam timing, which is really common on pretty much everything today. Technology's come a long way. Those early ones had nothing but problems. Now what the problem was on those was the variable cam timing was run off of oil pressure. Now you had little screens and everything in these solenoids, and what happened more times than not is people weren't religious with their oil changes. You start to get a little debris, you start to get a little sludge buildup in there, and what happens is that variable cam timing system no longer sees the oil pressure it needs to. Now that is 100% controlled by oil. So basically they fill oil on one side or the other to advance or retard the timing of the cam. You start to lose oil pressure, that thing starts to lose control. Then what happens is your cam will just sit there and oscillate back and forth. For long, you're scoring your cam caps and you're replacing an engine. Everyone's heard the notorious the knock that makes when that starts to happen. Now, there are a lot of those trucks that did live. People did really good job of changing their oil, but that was still just a bad design. As soon as that oil pressure dropped below about 25 on the original solenoids, you'd be shelling an engine before too long if it wasn't addressed immediately. Just got these tires, Kumo Adventure. They're a pretty decent tire, especially for the price. Now these engines aren't known for fuel economy, they're not known for power, but reliable, just work every time, low maintenance. That's what these engines are known for. This truck has actually got 355 gears in the back. On the highway, I can see 18, a little better than 18 miles per gallon fuel economy. Now, my 99, it had 373s, and I think the best I could ever get out of it was somewhere around that 16 mark. Newer trucks, the EcoBoost has come a long way as far as fuel economy, but there's just a lot more complexities to those engines. Now, they're becoming more reliable every year, they're figuring them out, but for this engine has been out since 97 and just keeps working. This 5.4 2-valve is also the grandfather of some of the really great mod motors. So when we talk about the 6.2 gas motor that they had in the F-150 and the F-250, that was a great motor. Once again, horrible fuel economy, really good motor. Same thing when you talk about, you get into any of the high performance engines, the Mustang Shelby engine, the 5.4, that is a dual overhead cam motor. They use a lot of the same architecture. I've known people with the 5.4, specifically in work van applications, in the E150s, the E250s, they get 300,000 miles on these engines, and they just keep running. As long as you take care of them, really good about oil changes, keeping up on everything, these things will run forever. Even if they don't, these engines are pretty cheap. You can buy a reman from Ford. This has been a couple years ago, last time I checked, but it was like, $3 grand, $3,500 for a complete reman engine. Usually what happens with these trucks, it's kind of the same thing that happened back with the 300 inline 6, that 4.9 liter. The truck will fall apart around the engine. The engine will just keep going. Especially anybody that lives in the northern states, the truck ends up rusting away before that engine ever gives out on you. And another thing I did was, these grills are notorious for kind of getting sun faded, so I pulled that thing out, used some Krylon Fusion, and painted that thing all black. Turned out pretty good. And back when these trucks were new, there were nearly as many trim packages as there are today. The Platinum didn't exist. You could still get King Ranch, you could still get Lariat, they came with leather interiors. But once again, that interior just didn't hold up to the truck. Most of those interiors are just completely shot, unless it was taken care of really well. This one's just got the regular cloth interior, bench seat up front. It still looks pretty decent at 154,000 miles on it. Now, of course, the interior of these are not luxury at all. Pretty plain, a lot of plastic going on. But for what it is, for a truck, it just works. Inside of this is dirty, but once again, nothing special, but just really functional. This one's actually got the on the floor 4-wheel drive shifter. Funny thing about these floor shifters is there's actually still no linkage between that and the transfer case. It works exactly the same as the style that has the switch right up here on the dash, but still kind of cool. These things also didn't have the transmissions behind them like the new trucks do. This is just a 5-speed, basically a 4-speed with an overdrive. You got into the newer trucks, they came out with the 6R80. It's a 6-speed transmission, and now of course they've moved on to the 10R80, which is a 10-speed transmission. The nice things about these is they're still reliable. You can go pick one up pretty nice for, you know, that $8,000 to $10,000 range. If you've went and looked at trucks at all, you know you can't get into a V8, you know, 4-wheel drive F-150 for, you know, they're wanting $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for those now. Now these trucks, 4-wheel drive like this, the rear is a limited slip, the front is an open diff. So the newer ones actually come with electronic lockers. I know some of the newer ones have actual limited slip in the front. All those things would be nice, of course, but unless you're really getting out into some situations where you need that, it's just kind of a nice to have. Like I said, this truck has been in my family since it was new. So the only things we've done to this truck is it got spark plugs at around 100,000 miles. It got both hub bearings replaced. That was early on. That was like 30 or 40,000 miles. And we've put U-joints in it. Other than that, we haven't touched this thing, we've just driven it. Now when I say we've just driven it, we've done all the normal maintenance. All the fluids in this vehicle have been swapped out basically every 30,000 miles since new. It's power steering fluid, coolant, engine oil has of course been done actually every 3,000 to 5,000 miles on this one. The front and rear diff, as well as the transfer case, they've all been done every 30,000 miles. So it has had really good maintenance as well, and that is a key to keeping any vehicle running for a long time. And here's the 5.4 in all its 265 horsepower glory. This front cylinder on this side is the one that's most likely to blow those spark plugs out. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.